Good evening, everyone. I am Daryl D'Souza from Kandolim, a member of the Integrative Natural Medicine Committee of India. Now, our group is comprised of practitioners and teachers of over 100 different modalities of natural healing: Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, Homeopathy, and Soa Rigpa, which is the Ayush department, are just 6 of these 100 natural healing modalities. I've been teaching integrative natural medicine to reverse chronic illnesses like high BP, cholesterol, diabetes, and all of that since the last 15 years. And I have authored a book on it, which is used and revered all across the world over the last 10 years. I have been the secretary of the World United Doctors and Healers Association for 5 years and have curated and convened 5 mind, body, spirit healing conferences which still remain the benchmark in India. I fought COVID at home in May this year with integrative natural medicine, and so did my 82-year-old mother. Likewise, many of us across the country contracted COVID and treated it with natural medicine or naturopathy or the Ayush protocol for COVID or the NICE protocol for COVID or the NISA protocol for COVID or by using homeopathy. And there's been a very successful doctor, Dr. Thomas Paul in Goa, who's been doing wonderful work. He has cured over 10,000 people from COVID positive to COVID negative with homeopathy, and he's made a presentation to Ayush Minister Shripad Naik. Had a good meeting with him, and they are really looking forward to take that ahead. So those of us who have cured ourselves naturally, our bodies now have the right antibodies against COVID, which we develop naturally, and scientifically those are proven to be stronger and to last longer than any COVID vaccine antibodies. Therefore, we do not see any logic or medical or scientific basis for people like us to be offered the COVID vaccines. In fact, latest reports around the globe state that COVID vaccines subdue naturally produced antibodies that we have developed. And these vaccines will damage our immunity, and that is simply not acceptable to us. We are quite surprised that the Chief Minister of Goa has publicly announced that all eligible people of Goa must get vaccinated by 31st July without caring to publicize or disclose what type of people are eligible and not eligible for the COVID vaccine. Now, this has created a tremendous confusion and fear in the public, and it falls short of medical ethics. If the COVID antibodies test of anyone shows that they have the right antibodies now, which the COVID vaccines are attempting to produce, which fight COVID, then such people should also be exempt from the COVID vaccine because the job is already done. This non-eligibility of the vaccines has also not been clarified by our Honorable Chief Minister of Goa. So we will soon be making the following submissions to the Health Minister of Goa. First, several vaccine-related injuries and vaccine-related deaths have been reported across India and across the world. CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control in USA, and WHO, the World Health Organization, they have mandated protocols to be followed across the globe as well as in India that mark many non-COVID deaths as COVID deaths, even though the people did not have any COVID symptoms when dying. This is also a medical malpractice which has been followed in India as well, and it has created a false perception of a very high number of COVID deaths. A person's body must go through some days of the COVID symptoms first to then die from COVID later, just like any other flu or any other disease. This is the science. Yet, CDC and WHO did not mandate AEFI, as it is called in India, adverse events following immunization, or VARS, VAERS, which is Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System, as called in US and Europe. They did not mandate it for every vaccinated person, but they left it voluntary. This has resulted in the gross underreporting of vaccine deaths and vaccine injuries across the world and in Goa too. This also, in my view, is medical malpractice and must be corrected immediately by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in India. Besides this, informed consent for these experimental vaccines in writing is not being taken from all the people at vaccination centers. This is unlawful in international law. It leaves the vaccinated person unaware that they may not be eligible for the vaccine as per some contraindications given in the vaccine fact sheet, and this results in vaccine injuries and vaccine deaths later. This malpractice also needs to be corrected. In fact, the health department of every state in India must first collect every vaccinated person's health record post-COVID vaccination on a monthly basis. That is for all the people who have been vaccinated till now. They need to collect their data on a monthly basis for the first 6 months, and thereafter every 6 months for at least 3 years, as part of the live trials of these experimental vaccines. So the live trials are happening on the people. This information must form the basis for the review of the vaccination drives going on to assess if they are working for the benefit of the people of Goa or any state of India or the world. To end my statement, I will just cite another medical malpractice by CDC and WHO that even every common person will understand. So from the starting of the pandemic, their research showed that the virus spreads through contact. So we were all made to wash our hands, papayas, apples, milk cartons, etc. with soap before using them. Then 6 months back, they declared that the virus is now airborne. So people were advised to do double masking, which restricted their breathing a lot and in turn resulted in lesser oxygen in the body and related health problems. So my simple question is, does not the air containing virus fall now on our hands, on our papayas, bananas and milk cartons, and even the foods that we are eating outside in the restaurants? But we are doing all of these things since the last 6 months and we are not getting the virus or getting COVID. So what is the meaning of this? It can mean only 3 things. First, either the virus doesn't exist. Second, the virus exists, but it is pretty useless and harmless. So we're just eating it and nothing is happening to us. Or the third, that all of us have reached herd immunity, which means that if we are immune, there is no need for any vaccine because we are already protected. I say it once again to make it clear that since 6 months, coronavirus is in the air. And that same air, it is falling on our food and on our hands as well. And that food we've been eating without cleaning it or without heating it 4 times a day. And we've also been touching our face with those same coronavirus hands 20 times a day, which means we are infecting ourselves 24 times a day with coronavirus. But none of us are falling sick, which only means that either the virus doesn't exist or it exists, but it is so hopeless it cannot make anybody sick. Or it is harmful, but all of us have reached herd immunity, so now we are immune to the virus, which only means that now there is no use of any vaccine. When we are infecting ourselves with coronavirus 24 times every day, then what is the point of wearing a mask? Maybe if somebody is sneezing in the day, so to prevent the 25th occurrence of infection, or by social distancing, if we meet 2-3 people a day, are we preventing the 26th, 27th and 28th occurrence of infection? A great nation like India, with over 4,000 years of holistic medicine experience, must be cautious of following the dictates of such global agencies that propagate bad medical science. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brian Fernandez and I am a member of Awaken India movement. We are a group of people spread across every state in India who are against mandatory vaccination, mandatory testing and mandatory masking based on scientific evidence, provisions of law and the negative results people are experiencing from all these things. We are a leaderless movement and we are not attached to any political party. Indian Council of Medical Research has stated that the cycle threshold value for RT-PCR tests should be 35. But at 35 cycles, the test is 97% false positive when compared to the gold standard of virus culture. Meaning, out of 100 positive cases, only 3 actually have corona. I am not saying this. Oxford University in UK, which is a very reputed university, has done research that proves this. In fact, this research has been quoted by courts in Germany and Portugal who have said that it is illegal to detain people and put them in quarantine on the basis of this test. We have given the scientific evidences regarding this test in a letter to the Indian Council of Medical Research 2 months ago. On the basis of this test, people are wrongly detained in COVID centers and there is good chance of them falling even more sicker there as they come in close contact with genuine COVID patients and also patients having infectious diseases such as TB, bronchitis and pneumonia. Similarly, masking is not supported by science. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare had said earlier that masks is not mandatory. Courts in Germany and US have said that masks are not effective. In fact, many doctors have said that masks cause damage. This is the reason why Awaken India movement demands that masking should not be mandatory. People who want to wear masks can certainly wear them, but governments and businesses should not demand that everyone wear masks, and police should not fine people who want to breathe freely. Awaken India movement has over 200 people in Goa who work for the health of people, for the right medical sciences, and for civil rights and liberties too. Anyone who wants to support our cause are most welcome to join us. Our website is www.awakenindiamovement.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening to all. I am Rahul Goswami, former advisor to Ministry of Environment through the Center for Environment Education Himalaya, which is a specialist agency of the ministry, and before that, advisor to the Ministry of Agriculture, central government. I've also worked for approximately 30 plus years on documenting traditional knowledge systems in India and adjacent parts of Asia, and hence my interest especially in crafts, rural handicrafts, artisans and hand weaves, all of which have suffered a great deal for the last 16 months. In fact, today is what marks 16 months of from the commencement of the national lockdown, and that's what I will give you a few insights into. Firstly, the genesis of the lockdown. Lockdown never in our public medical history was a measure to control or contain any disease outbreak or any ailment, not once. Our recorded public medical history dates back to the mid-19th century when the then British Raj set up its medical colleges in the various presidencies. So we don't have any such record of tackling any such disease outbreak in India, whether colonial or independent India, and in the same way there is no such record in the existing medical records of all the 193 countries which have been subjected to lockdown by the provisions of WHO and their various health agencies. What is the effects of these? Since I saw that Awaken India movement was to me the signal movement that was looking at these impacts, I decided to join it and lend my experience to it. We have looked at the effects of lockdown and its associated restrictions, by which we mean the curfews, the quarantines, the confinement zones and so on, their effect on economy and business, the informal sector and wage labor, children, teenagers and youth, which is a huge section of our population, the elderly, the disabled and the infirm, faiths, religion and spiritual congregations, and culture and sports. The primary metric that appears to be the concern of the government, state and central governments, is what is the effect on the economy. On the 1st of June, the Center for Monitoring the Indian Economy, which is an old think tank based in Bombay, estimated that in what is called the second wave of COVID, 1 crore Indians, that is 10 million, lost their jobs in what is the second wave alone. That is not since the beginning of the pandemic. CMI's estimate is that 97% of household incomes have declined since the start of COVID in March 2020. What CMI also said is that people who lose jobs find it hard to get employment. Some informal sector jobs return, but most formal sector jobs take at least a year to return. The CMI completed a nationwide survey of 1.75 lakh households this April, and out of them, 55% said that their incomes have declined. So this is from the premier economic measurement think tank of our country. A year earlier, in April 2020, the International Labour Organization, which is a UN organization, said that half the workers of the world were at, I quote, immediate risk of losing their livelihoods due to the coronavirus. What this meant is that by the ILO's own estimates, 2 out of 3 of those who are in regular or irregular jobs, labor, wage labor or seasonal labor, are in the informal sector. But this, again, you have to remember, is a international benchline. For us, it is a much higher ratio. And what that means is we have a ratio which is above 2 out of 3, which are far more vulnerable to the effects of lockdown. A number of health agencies from the USA and elsewhere in Europe began by the middle of last year, June to July, began noting and recording increased deaths, what are called deaths of despair, suicides, alcoholism, and so on. We have not a comparative record since that time. However, it became clear that the major Indian chambers of commerce began to notice this in the workforce that was still in factories, in commercial establishments. And in February 2021, that is this year, the Associated Chambers of Commerce and Industry, ASSOCHAM, held a webinar on depression management and treatment, in which it said that women are twice as likely to face depression than men, and they also acknowledged that childhood and adolescence depression is a common phenomenon amongst children. And children, of course, are teenagers and youth form about 450 million of our population, which is a gigantic sum, almost equivalent to the entire population of the European Union. As early as May last year, UNICEF had warned that lockdown could kill more, UNICEF, which is the United Nations Children Education Fund, could kill more than COVID-19, and its model predicted a 45% rise in child mortality. So this is one of the associated effects of lockdown on education and the role of schools, colleges, universities as social institutions which gather and bring together children in particular ways which help them socialize and build their immunity naturally. Now I'll end with a reminder of what had been said more than 40 years ago, 1978, WHO Declaration of Alma-Ata, which is a city in the former Soviet Union, on health, where it said very categorically that health is not merely the absence of disease, it is very definitely the presence of all the factors, social, economic, and environmental, which contribute to what we call good health. Thank you.
So, my name is Neeru Goyal. I'm a physiotherapist and a member of Earth Keepers Goa since last 8 years, perhaps from the beginning of its inception. I would like to call myself as a holistic physiotherapist now, after being a patient myself of multiple illnesses, tried allopathic ways of treatment and failed pretty badly, and then acquired naturopathy, Ayurveda, and other integrated natural healing systems, and revived within 2 to 4 months after 16 years of suffering. So now I can quite say that I would be talking out of experience. As a member of Earth Keepers also, I would say that we prefer to receive our learnings for healthy living from nature. And nature tells us that there are some essentials for healthy living. Essentials meaning things that cannot be compromised. Not even one out of the list can be dropped. And if at all, in the name of disease management, if at all we have to compromise any one of the essential factors for health, then it directly means that we are going against health. So now I'm going to list those essential things that nature tells us are needed for healthy living. Number 1, access to oxygen-rich fresh air. Masking compromises it. Access to sunlight. Lockdown, staying in the house compromises it. Nutritious, clean food, which also includes our medicines. Anything that we take into our body through the mouth, whether it is breakfast, lunch, dinner, or if it is medicines, it is food to the body. If it is not coming from natural source, it is poison. So now we know, I hope the audience understands what I mean. Movement also comes essential to the body. Humans as a race were hunter-gatherers. No movement, no survival. Lockdown, social distancing is hampering movement. If we can't grow our food, fetch our food, we don't survive. Okay. Socialization is also an essential component of healthy living. Human species is a social animal. We need to socialize because we are interdependent on each other. We believe in family structures. People who are locked alone in homes, either because of being too old in age or because of being handicapped health-wise, or for the reason of just being a bachelor out of their own choices, but if they are locked in homes, it is against their health. Peaceful sleep is a very important, essential component of health offered by nature. Peaceful sleep is received only when there is no fear-mongering on our head. I would question ethical journalism on this chapter. Ethical policy disclosures by the government. How much are we caring and how much are we concerned about the psyche of masses when we disclose certain policies or when we publish certain news? How many dying on a daily basis? How many more days of lockdown? How many more months of zero employment? The risk of living without any certainty. These fear-mongerings will not let us sleep peacefully. Then the next most essential component is freedom. Freedom in every respect. Freedom to move. Freedom to express, I am not comfortable. Freedom to question what are the ingredients of the vaccine. Freedom to also question what are the ingredients of the medicines that shall be given to me if at all I am hospitalized. How it is going to act on the physiology of my body. How is it going to make any difference? That freedom. Freedom to make choices of treatment. What if I don't want to undergo a ventilator? What if I don't want to take any allopathic medicine and I feel out of my belief that I can be better treated through nature-based medications, or maybe no medications, maybe just fresh air, maybe just some exercise, maybe just retaining back belief in myself if I have that choice, that freedom. Now, coming back to the same concern that if at all in the name of disease management, any of these essentials are compromised, then it is going against health. Which means that it is high time we think of another solution. Thank you.
I am Samuel D'Souza from Government College of Arts, Commons and Science, Sangelim. As a student, right from when I was a small kid, I remember our teachers encouraged us to question. Today, when we all have questioned about the safety of the vaccine, we have found shocking answers. Our research, based on official sources and not fake news, tells us that there have been many life-threatening adverse events happening post-vaccinations like severe blood clots, heart inflammations, etc. which may be rare according to official data in many countries, but is a real concern to people. I, as a student, do not want our teachers or students or employees of any company to take these risks if they do not wish to. The vaccines are not approved fully. They are approved on emergency use authorization and should not be mandated for anyone. Severe adverse events have already happened. Some are officially reported already, and most remain underreported, and what's to come in few years' time is a big question mark. There are some universities in India that want students to vaccinate to attend offline classes. This is totally against medical freedom. We don't want any mandatory vaccination circulars or rules in Goa or elsewhere that may expose students or young adults to terrible adverse events who have their entire life ahead. The point is, vaccines should not be mandatory for anyone. Those who want to vaccinate can go ahead and take it, but there should be informed consent where the people should be also told about the adverse events that have happened. Mandating PCR testing every week or every month is definitely not so practical. By mandating this test, it's going to put the individual to more risk of getting infected, as there will be many people actually infected with COVID at the testing centers, and will result in unnecessary expense in these difficult times. As students, our requests are simple: no mandatory vaccines for teachers, students, or employees of any company or businesses, and no mandatory PCR testing to carry out daily activities. Thank you.
Thanks to everyone on the dais today for giving your wonderful insights, inputs, your deep concerns, especially of what's going on now, and also questioning the future that we are going into. Now I leave it open first to the press people. If you have any questions, please ask us, and after that round, we would welcome questions from the audience.
You're telling mask is a problem for oxygen inhale, and that's why the people died.
So what is being said is that first, scientifically, all the research has shown that the size of the coronavirus is smaller than the highest quality of mask, which is called the N95 mask. With every N95 mask, in each of the pores, 2 coronaviruses or 3 coronaviruses can go in. So that's the first thing, as that is science. Then the second thing is, which I can tell from my own experience, that when I wear a mask like this for more than 1-2 hours, okay, whether I'm driving a car or I start getting a slight acidic reaction in my body. I feel a slight headache coming on. So definitely that is taking my body, backward in health, and a weaker body with a lower immune system. Now, what happens with immunity it means that once your body immune system is working on something, right? So if I'm getting a slow headache, it means my immune system is engaged on that. Then that much less percentage of my immune system is ready to fight something else. So over the long term of the last 1.5 years now, people have already understood, and people are having problems with wearing masks over a longer period of time. Thank you. Any other press people? Any questions? So I open the floor to the audience on any questions about existence of virus, not existence of virus, any questions regarding vaccines. Please, you can put your questions forward. Yes? Would you like to take the mic, please? Please come forward. Thank you.
Just an observation. I've noticed a speaker or two referring to deaths due to COVID. I would assume then that the causative factor for this disease has been isolated and identified. Your comments?
Yes. So, when you're talking about isolating and identifying, are you referring to the people first with symptoms who are going through the sickness, or is your question on the proof of the people who have died? The latter?
Yes.
The-
You all refer to
Deaths.
due to COVID.
Yes. So, at least a personal friend of mine in Goa, whose wife was teaching at my wellness center, a very healthy man. He and his wife both took the COVID vaccine first dose, and on the 12th day, he developed blood clots. He had to go to ICU, and in 48 hours, he got a brain stroke and he died. And he has had no other health problems. And like I said, a very healthy person. So this is just one incident I can talk of my own friends. I've heard of others also having similar things. So the logical question is, where is the evidence more heavier on? If it has to be assumed that he died of something else, but when it is checked and there is no other reason, does it turn out that there is a 95% probability that he died from the vaccine? Or can someone say, I have no other reason to say, but I just want to state that there is 95% that he wouldn't have died from the vaccine, right? So evidence and the health record of a person and a sudden event which has happened with no other cause is a kind of indicator that this is the occurrence that happened, with the person that got vaccinated. So also there are other cases in Goa now of our footballer also, Inacio Vaz. I mean, it was reported in the papers that he took the vaccine in the morning. He went for the practice of football in the evening and he collapsed. And there's also a report that he had diabetes and his sugar was high. Now, I'm sure his sugar was high a dozen times before in his life, and that did not cause his death. So again, you have to see the real, more closer to reality of all these cases. So in India right now, through several media channels, that is on a TV news channel, on a social media posts, Awaken India movement has gathered evidences. We are saying it is a vaccine, it is a death after vaccination. Okay, because the medical community always has the right to investigate each case and state medically whether there was any other reason, or if there was no other reason, then they could attribute it to vaccine. That is up to them. But this file clearly states that post-vaccination, this is an event that got caused and it was death. And there are many other vaccine injuries also. So this file that's going around, it's a Google shared file, it shows 2,700 plus such deaths in India. This is 1 week back, and somebody just indicated to me in the audience that it's crossed 3,000. So yes, I think the government needs to look at that instead of debating it. They need to get in touch with those people, verify each of those cases, and they will get the true results if they're searching for truth. And here's another fact, that Awaken India movement is not able to cover all of India. We estimate that we've just done 25% of the job, which puts our guesstimates that maybe 4 times that number, have passed away after vaccination. Now let the experts go into it and detect for each case, was it vaccine or was it something related to something else? Thank you.
Is there anyone who wants to ask? Otherwise, I can.
That much before all of them get vaccinated.
Yes, so the 31st July is the date. So yes, time is short, and I know the blood pressures of teachers are increasing every day, and maybe some of, God forbid, high BP gets them before the vaccine. So I would give the mic to Ranjan Sundaram as a concerned citizen of India and resident of Goa, to share his insight and the points that he wants to make.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ranjan Sundaram, as Daryl introduced me. As a concerned citizen, I'm really concerned. I come from a more spiritual background. My family teaches nature cure or natural health science, and Hindi we call it Prakritik Chikitsa. जिन लोगों को हिंदी आती है यहाँ पे, मैं हिंदी में आराम से बात कर सकता हूँ. किसी ने भी हिंदी में बात नहीं करी जब प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रहा था, लेकिन यही बात मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि जो अभी चल रहा है, जैसा सबने शेयर किया था, there's a lot of ways of tackling what's going on, and being really healthy is one of the most important issues that we've all come to the consensus that whether you're vaccinated or not, obviously if you're not, please consider the options. None of us here are vaccinated, so without saying the obvious, समझदार लोगों के लिए इशारा ही काफ़ी होता है कहते हैं. So, we're all about the pointing the fingers and showing the mirrors and helping people who come to us. In fact, if any of you have questions, reactions about what to do if somebody is vaccinated, we can help you with that as well. So what I'd like to say is, my concern is, as the public, I'm really concerned about my fellow public choosing to stay asleep. In so many ways, I include myself. I know I can easily wake up at 3:45 in the morning and do my 4 hours of whatever I need to do, and before the rest of the world wakes up, I'm already done with everything I need to do in the day. The rest of it is incidental or non-essential as we speak. We are working on modalities like working on being breatharian, what was being shared earlier, sunlight, air, these are important things. Prakritik Chikitsa, which my family teaches, my great-grand uncle is known as the father of Indian nature cure. His name is Acharya Lakshman Sharma. He wrote the books on nature cure 150 years ago and was very closely associated with Ramana Maharishi at the time, and the Shankaracharya, who helped him compile 1500 shlokas which detail every single thing that is what we consider good health, what was being taught earlier. There are many signs of good health: how you sit, how you walk, how you go to the bathroom, how soundly you sleep. All these things are contributing factors to gauge what kind of good health you're in, how strong you are, how flexible you are, how quick you are. You can add to those, and if you'd like, please contact me. So our institution is called IMANA, Institute of Mahayoga and Natural Hygiene, and contact me, we can talk more about this, but I'd like to urge the public that we need to go deeper within ourselves. जितना भी हमने किया है उससे और 10,000 गुना हमें करना है, ऐसा सोच के चलना है, because ये टाइम बहुत सीरियस है. It's a very very serious juncture, an important crossroads in human history, where once again, and I say once again for those of you who are enlightened enough to this happening before, once again we're going through an end world extinction scenario where the whole human race most likely will come to an end and a new human race will emerge, one that is more capable of integrating itself with the continuing electromagnetic frequency changes which are going on. Magnetobiology, if you guys have time, look it up later, is one of the most important things which is never taught to us in school. Magnetobiology, how radiation affects us. So as a public, I want to know many things about radiation and vaccines and things like this. So please wake up, wake your family, your friends up, and most importantly, like I said, I need to wake myself up, and all of us are working on this on a personal level. Whatever you've been doing, do it more, do go deeper, go further, join groups, join spiritual communities, look for spiritual people, look to find the spiritual things out of each person, look for the best in each person and nurture that so that we can form a group, we can form communities for the last of the surviving human race. Join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjan. That was, very insightful. And I just want to make a further comment on one aspect of magnetobiology. Like Ranjan mentioned, many of you may wonder what is the meaning of that. But here I'll share something very simple. And I've been working like a scientist, whether it comes in healthcare or whether it comes to organic farming or nutrition, or even what I call magnetics and bioelectronics. As a 13-year-old boy in my school for work experience, I made my first electric motor. So at 8th standard, when I was 13 years, I knew what is electrical field, copper wire, induction, magnetism, all of that. I also used to make small ships, boats, planes and robots that worked around. So if your child can do it at 13, then you can understand my expertise in that field. So I just want to share a topic that I presented on a webinar, and it was in one presentation, and I said no G and then G. Okay, that means what is no G? No G was the time on this planet when even radio waves and all were not there. Okay, we have to understand that our own body, like Indians should know this the most. The chakra system, you have an auric body, and that field gets a little lesser, then it's called an etheric body. When you sense somebody is in the room without even looking at them, but they are coming in through the door, it's because your etheric body extends 10, 15 feet. So with the energy that tickles you, you look behind. So these are energy fields, and all of us have energy fields, and the earth has a biosphere that has got an energy field in itself, which before the time of no G was a permanent field. Then the first time radio waves came and established themselves around the planet, okay, we had a different energy that became permanent. So along with that, as 2G came and 3G came, the electric field, okay, this is a permanent field. You put on a light and you put it off, that's temporary. But you keep a light on the time, that means the field is present. So we all know that 3G was permanently there on the planet since some time, right? But before G, before any G, what happened? When does the environment change? Doesn't the environment change every season? When it changes from the monsoon, then now after the monsoon we'll have October heat. When October heat comes, sometimes people get sick. Certainly we know that from the summertime, when we come into the rains, first week of rain, many people are getting sick. They're getting cough, cold, flu, conjunctivitis and all of that. So what is the science? A change in the external environment of the planet induces a compulsory change. This is actual science. It induces a change in the human body. And because that change happens over 3-4 days and your body has to adapt itself. In that adaptation, you go into cough, cold, flu, loss of taste and smell and all of that. And that is the general flu that all of us have gone through, every year, every second year. And we know that when you get that flu, even antibiotic pills will not work, even antiviral pills will not work. Even the medical doctors have said, you can take it if you like, but this flu will last for 5 days. So this we already know happens naturally, but as this 3G went to 4G, that field becomes stronger and stronger, right? So as 4G goes around the planet and becomes permanent, every human body has to upgrade its energy field and DNA to that. Then it stabilizes. So during that time, we go through these flu symptoms. And now we've come from 4G to 5G. If you see the technical details, 4G is up to 800 megahertz, 850, 900 megahertz, and then it jumps into 5G, which is going up to starting from 1.8G to 2.5, 3, 5G, then going up to 75G. So the field across the earth now that is increasing with every tower coming up is getting more and more electrified with a much higher frequency that are being placed in these towers that are much closer. So we're having a new permanent field that's happening on the planet, which is compulsory by scientific principles inducing a change in our body. Unfortunately, that change is not a 5-6 day flu, but a 14 days or 10 days flu. When I went through COVID, I came out of it after 7-8 days with naturopathy principles, with raw diet, with supplements, sun bath, resting, and all of that. And my mother, she was 82, she went through 16 days of these symptoms, but we recovered. Her oxygen went down to 83, mine was 92 or something for a few days. And we had all the symptoms of COVID. But treating by naturopathy, we got cured, and now we have the natural antibodies. So I just want to share, this is simple basic science that no scientist on this planet and no doctor can prove that it is wrong, because these are the basics of science. Across this planet, a new field is being created. We have to understand, planets are natural bodies. They have evolved over thousands of years. And what is around them is called harmonic energies or harmonic frequencies. When human beings create new fields that did not exist, you are changing. It's like you get a spring water and you put it in a bowl and you put a fish in it. And then after 10 days, you take ink from your pen and you drop it in the water. You expect the fish to survive and live, right? So this is the basic science. I have researched a lot of things in 5G, where some reports where they are saying it is used as a bioweapon and this and that. I have researched that also. And that's a talk for a deeper time between scientists perhaps. But the ABC of delta change of environment around the planet does a compulsory delta change in your body, right, is a basic science. And what we're talking about herd immunity, it means that because even in vaccines, they're trying to get at least 70-80% vaccinated because they know others get herd immunity. But what is herd immunity? Even without vaccines, when 60-70% of the people go through this, their bodies and their energy fields and DNA gets upgraded. And those are the people who did not get it till now. The field itself, our chakras, our energy, our new DNA radiating to maintain, because if the field is permanent, the body makes a permanent reply. When the 5G will go down, then the body's energy system will go down to fight that. So now all of us, most of us have got a permanently new upgraded energy body, right? So this is the science. And unfortunately, who can go through 15 to 21 days of flu and joint pains and loss of appetite and diarrhea? Most senior citizens cannot. They were the first casualties. The next were all the people who are taking allopathic medicines for high BP, cholesterol, diabetes and all of that. Their immune systems are very low and they are called comorbid people. You've heard of that, right? Most comorbid people, some of them were landing in ICU. So, yeah, so we have to understand this. What are we doing to this world? Why are we electrifying it? And are we prepared for the results of those technologies? Thank you.
Anyone else? Because I was touching my ear.
Daryl answered Aston Rodrigues. I just want to have one question to you. After listening to all that what you spoke, do you want to hint that so-called COVID-19 resultant sickness is because of change in Earth's magnetic field or because of 5G or 4G? Thank you.
So, I will once again take you into a little bit of medical evidence, which I have also been working since 10 years in bioelectronics. And if anybody knows about fields and inflammation, okay? So what is inflammation in the body? When a person does a lot of exercise, athlete runs for a few kilometers, then a lot of muscle, pain happens. Lactic acid is created, and to reduce the inflammations, if you stand on bare feet earth, you start getting negative ions from the earth. There's a whole science and a website called the Earthing Institute. Okay, you go to that. So when negative ions come, the lactic acid and the inflammation caused in the joints, it gets neutralized. Now what happens with these electrical fields as they become stronger? They cause, they radiate to the body and they come inside the body. So they cause mild inflammation in the tissues of the body first, which are the lightest organs of the body, the liquids and the tissues. The bones and all are the hardest. So first, the tissues get affected. So you will experience mild inflammation in the lungs, tissues, in the intestinal tract issues. What happens when the tissues of a body become mildly inflamed? They cannot hold the negative charge. And gram-positive germs, like for example pneumonia, okay, it's a gram-positive bacteria with a very hard protein shell. It's there all around the place. But when a permanent field is there, it induces mild inflammation in the lungs. Lungs immune system is trying to maintain that, so the immunity of that lungs go down, and the germs in the area can affect the person. Second friend of mine also in Goa died of pneumonia. Never had pneumonia before in their lives. I know what pneumonia is. At the age of 20 years, I almost died of pneumonia in Goa. I was coughing blood and could not breathe. That time, of course, emergency medicine, allopathy saved me. And then after that, I started, doing exercises, and all, chest exercises, and I survived. So my overall thing, what I'm saying is, energy fields, permanent, strong, harsh energy fields, they cause mild inflammation in the organs. And the organs start losing their electrical charge and their strength and the immunity to fight these virus, bacteria, mold, and all of those things. And people become more sick more easily. So that is the science. So the evidence overall is more electrical fields, weaker immune systems, the germs that are there, it has a bigger effect on the human body. So I would urge you to research and read the terrain theory. Okay, that means what is your surrounding? According to that, you will respond, you will thrive, you will get sick, or you will die. Same example, that fish bowl, if I start putting ink in it, we know what's going to happen to the fish. Thank you.
So there was one question. So when you said it is about the 5G and change of the environment, so what the government is actually trying to do with the vaccinations? Are they trying to get that negative ions, or what they are exactly trying to experiment on us?
Yes, so I think this question is best directed to the government and the health ministry, of what they are trying to achieve with vaccines. At least a country like India, like I said, 4,000 years plus holistic science. In all the history, we've never had any problem with dealing with any of these illnesses. But now we are being imposed by Western medicine to use these vaccines. But already the evidence is there of vaccine injuries and vaccine deaths. Maybe our government needs more research or more evidence from practitioners of natural medicine. Even Dr. Biswarup Roy Chowdhury, if you all have heard of him, he also had this 1,100 bed, in Nagpur, was it? Ahmednagar, yeah. And over there, many people reversed, and there was not even a single fatality. So I think the government of India, Health Ministry and Family Welfare, they should look at all these evidences and start, India must start rising up and start operating our own sciences. All that I, shared with you, the NICE protocol, NISA protocol, homeopathy, Ayush protocol also. Yes, any question?
You know that a lot of people have survived COVID, and it's because of the medications they have taken. You cannot deny that.
Yes, so okay, now I'll extend the same discussion that I said earlier, and something like ivermectin. Okay, it's a wide spectrum anti-parasitic drug. Now go back to the place where I said this increasing field causes a weakness in the lungs, and the parasites are there and they come into the lungs. So when the person gets this infection, and within 2-3 days they see the symptoms and they take an antiparasitic, yes, it will kill the pneumonia bacteria. So you'll have many cases, and this is already medically stated by so many doctors, that if you do not take the antiparasitic within the first few days of symptoms and you wait till the 7th or 8th day, it goes into a cytokine storm and the person dies, and then even they can't be saved in the ICU. So yes, I stand by that also. If you don't know natural medicine, if you don't know how to do, the green smoothie, the sunlight, I use acupressure also for me and my mother. And if you don't know supplements and you want a quick fix to emergency, yes, in many cases, ivermectin may work. Even people have parasites in the body. You do any test of a person, parasites are there. Okay, but if your immunity and your terrain is good, then the parasites do not have any damage in your body. But when this energy field starts increasing, like I said, your immune system will get weak. Existing parasites, they will start multiplying more, and people will get symptoms of pneumonia, of cough, cold and flu and all of that. And as soon as you get that, if you take ivermectin, and it was the case that there were parasites in your body, you will see recovery within 5 days. And that has been a testimony. Many people took ivermectin and they got better and they got cured. Those are the people who have got parasites. And on the other side also, there is many cases stated that we had COVID and we took ivermectin and it didn't work and it is useless. Well, those are the people who did not have parasites. Maybe they had some other problem. Maybe their diabetes was so bad. Okay, maybe their diabetes or something else was so bad and they landed in ICU because of that. Yes, Dr. Neeru wants to share.
Ma'am, after taking those drugs, the parasites may be killed for that moment. The disease can still relapse after 1 month. Still the same drugs can be given, might subside for a week, and the disease can still relapse after another month, after 2 months, and the process goes on. Okay, so we can keep suppressing. We can keep suppressing with some kind of a synthetic overload. We can keep suppressing the body, hold it until the person gives up. It's something like this. So are we looking at symptomatic management, or are we really looking at regaining health from base, so that without any medicinal support, person is still healthy without any type of medicinal support. I have come across patients who say some physical pain, movement disorder is there, and since many years, like chronic multiple joint pain. And then I ask them, do you also have any other problem like diabetes, hypertension? They say no. Then I have to ask them again, hello, your levels in blood may be normal, but are you normalizing it using any medicine? Are you taking medicine for blood sugar? Are you taking medicine for BP? Yeah, medicine I am taking. Since many years medicine I am taking. Now I have no diabetes, I have no hypertension. Okay, because I am taking medicine, so I am healthy. Now you only take care of my joint pains. You don't talk about diabetes, hypertension. Is that a healthy person? With medicine. You got my point?
I got your point, but time is very critical thing, isn't it? Time. I mean, if you're serious, you have to go into medication.
You know what?
Even the Ayush minister,
Yeah.
he went through all this Ayurveda treatment, and finally he had to go to Manipal.
Let's talk about time.
Time is of the essence.
Yeah, time. So whenever there is a critical health condition, we ask for emergency management. In the name of emergency management, it has been 1.5 year time of emergency management. Mask, ventilator, all this is emergency management. Even vaccination is floated in the market in the name of Emergency management, 1.5 year of emergency management. When are we going to come to streamline main health? That damn health is not coming. We are only doing emergency management. There's a big difference in real health and emergency. Actually, total allopathy, factually, if I can be courageous here to say aloud, allopathy is only about emergency management, symptomatic suppression. Only. And how old is allopathy? As old as World War II. Father of allopathy unofficially is Adolf Hitler, who has been experimenting all drugs, has done all medical, so-called medical researches on disposable population. Who is disposable population? In the eyes of Hitler, it was prisoners. Now, who is the disposable population? For vaccination trials, who is the disposable population? All of us are disposable population. You think anybody is caring for lives? If people had to care for lives, I mean, if our policy makers had to care for lives, they should have done an expedited research on vaccine within a small time, taking care of time. They should have done a small time expedited research on a small population, their own population, and they should have tried it on Chinese and the Americans. Small population, small time, that experiment should have done, come to a conclusion, and then talked about floating it in market. If time had to be important, time and life, two things are really not regarded important. That is why we are here in this panel. We really mean it.
I think the most controversial thing is they have not performed any autopsy on the people who have died out of COVID.
Some countries did do autopsy and they found something really alarming.
Yes.
That's right. I just want to add to Dr. Neeru Goyal's statement is that yes, emergency medication, this medicine is going on for 1.5 years, but the real thing is, increasing your immunity permanently. And a country like India, which has shown how to use, do you know that I've shown it to everybody. You can take an oximeter in front of you right now, and if it is showing 97% saturation, all that you have to do is 3 breaths of this to get it from 97 to 99. What is that? One of the types of pranayam in India. You take a breath in, and you pretend like you're blowing into a balloon. You're not blowing your ears. Three breaths. In 3 breaths, you look at the oximeter, it will be 99. I challenge anybody to do this. Okay, it may take you 5 breaths. So what is this? What's happening? You're taking breath in, and when you're blowing out, there's a back pressure on your lungs. So the lung cavities are opening up and oxygen saturation is increasing. Okay? So these simple sciences of India, right, thousands of years old, pranayam, yoga, mudra, naturopathy, full Ayush, Unani, Siddha, and all of these things. These practices in your daily life are the only things that will increase your immunity to a higher level that can beat the 5G. Why isn't the Health Department of India teaching this as the most important science not only to Indians but all across the globe? This is our expertise. From when did we become the slaves of Western medicine? And we have forgotten all this 4,000-5,000 years of science. So that is the fact. So I just want to encourage everybody. We know this, like Dr. Neeru has said, sunlight is so important. So get sunlight, do some exercise, body movement, okay, do yoga, pranayam, all of this. And main thing is improve your immunity. An improved immune system is the only body that will survive in this kind of future that is being planned by big corporations. Did any individual in India, anybody in this room ask for 5G? Nobody, none of the people asked for 5G. So it's made by certain business entities and all that. So we have to understand, businesses do their thing and we have also to do our thing. Our thing is to take care of our body, learn the natural sciences, apply them, increase our immunity, and also show the evidence that certain things are harmful and not good for our health.
So I just want to know what is this spike protein? Because that's what I heard, it will kill you. That is in the vaccine.
Yes, so something very simple. A lot of things are written by the experts, virologists, and yes, so there are many videos. I just want to share one simple thing. It is already known and understood that spike protein is a GMO. That means genetically modified organism. It did not exist naturally, right? They created it in a lab. This much of science I know, that the human body is so intelligently designed over thousands of years that for each intrusion in the human body, it has got a unique response. If we are alive today, it means we have survived 10,000 years of all types of organisms coming and trying to do this and that to us in all the countries and all the temperatures, in water, on land, wherever, on top of the mountain, in the caves. This body has been trained, it's got one of the most amazing systems. This is a fact. Now, what is the second fact? I'm saying for every unique intrusion into the human body, it has got a unique response. This novel coronavirus, whatever it is, if it is a unique organism, we create a unique response, and there are very specific antibodies. I know this much science that a vaccine with aluminium and with so many other chemicals in it, it does not produce the same kind of response. This much basic science I know. So now we are seeing the result of it, that there is a spike protein and it is making some antibodies. Yes, and there is some test also to measure those antibodies, and everybody is clapping, oh yes, antibody ban gaya. But the person is getting COVID after the 1 week and then they're dying after 15 days. So we know from the result that that science is a total flop. Okay, so that's unfortunate. So this is in simple man's terms, I'm just saying this. Then if you're a microbiologist or a virologist, you can go into the details of it.
But what we can do in our capacity as an individual, even if we are not policy influencers, what we can do as an individual is to question. Use our freedom of questioning at least. I did this. I went to Mapsa District Hospital Vaccination Center, spoke to the in charge. I told her to show me AEFI, Adverse Effect Following Immunization Register. I said to her, this is my body. I want to secure it in my best interest. Seems like you also want to secure it. In whose interest, I don't know. But if at all securing this body is a concern, I want to know, before I allow something getting into my body, what is it and how effective it is. Personal, individual question. I asked this lady that you show me the register. After her answer to me was, oh, we have done hundreds and thousands of vaccinations and you're still coming with doubt. I said, yes, because I have a mind, it works. I have a mind, it works. You have to answer my question. Only then my doubts dissolve. My question to you is, can you show me the AEFI register? After those hundreds and thousands that you have vaccinated, tell me how many are healthy, how many have died. Tell me now. Based on that, I make my decision because it is my body. She did not show me this register, which was pretty obvious. So I said, okay, I need to next know what is the ingredient in the vaccine. I don't want simple juice, nor do I want some poison coming in. Okay, so I told her, do you know what are the ingredients in the vaccine? What, madam, you seem to be too paranoid. Reaction. Are you scared? Do you have some other comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension? I said, no, I don't have any of those comorbidities. Are you scared? Yes, because I'm less informed. Yes, I am scared because I'm less informed, not because I'm psycho. Huh? You have to satisfy my questions. These are individual discussions that everybody should be courageous enough to put up. Against anybody, against an individual who is coercing. Even if it is a letter coming from the head of the department of whatever institution, that head has to be asked these questions. That head has to be asked, show us AEFI register, tell us what are the ingredients in the vaccine. If you don't know the ingredients in the vaccine, at least show us the empty packet of your vaccine vial. I want to read that leaflet inside. That leaflet inside has a list of contraindications given by the manufacturer. There itself you will be able to opt yourself out. As per the manufacturer's list mentioned in the leaflet, pregnant ladies can't take, comorbidity ke saath mein you can't take, after 60 years old you can't take. There are so many lists. Okay.
Well, I have one story to share. I come from a joint family, so we are like 22 members in the house, and we have kids. Yeah, I'm Sandra Fernandez from Samoda, and I would like to share my story with all of you. Now, I live in a joint family and we have around 22 members in my family. So we have kids like 6 years and below, we have young adults, and I have my father who is 84 years old. Okay, he's 84 years old, and my pregnant daughter. Now, when I got to know that I was tested positive for corona, I was wondering, now how am I to get home? Because while I was there in the hospital, the doctor was like, please, please, please go and stand out. And if anyone else was in my place, would have died of a heart attack right there and then. And he made me stand out. And all the medication was brought to me. Okay, I don't want to make a mention of the hospital or the doctor. And I was there, and even my prescription was kept away and I had to pick it there. So that was the kind of humiliation I went through. But what was good about me is I am a very strong-minded woman. And I said, well, let corona come and I will try it. And so I went home with corona, introduced it to my family as well. And I said, please have a happy stay with my family. The next day, thank you. The next day, the news spread like wildfire, because in Goa, one thing happening, it goes all around. And then I had the panchayat people calling, please come, you have to go into the hospital, isolation, doctors, medicines. And I said, look, this is my problem, let me be where I am. We just stayed at home, all the 22 of us. By the end of 8 days, we were all tested positive. Okay, we were all tested positive. And my daughter was 4 months pregnant. I was worried about her, but there was one thing that kept me going, because I believe in God, and I said, if you have got this child in my daughter's womb, you will take care of it. And exactly that happened. We didn't take any medication, especially my daughter who was pregnant. She didn't take any medication, she couldn't. She was given a set of tablets and told by the doctor, they are very safe for pregnant women. But I said, don't take a chance. Do not take a chance. And we just stayed on. We cooked fresh food. We kept our bodies clean. We prayed. And within 8 days, I got back my sense of smell. My taste came back. My pregnant daughter was healed without any medication. Without anything. And what I did was I gave her plenty of fresh food. I included a lot of greens. And I said, let it be. And we all were healed, including my 84-year-old father, who was in and out of the hospital. And as Dr. Neeru said, I agree with her, it was so bad at times. In those 8 days, there was a slight body pain, and we were feeling paranoid because we couldn't go out. Nobody came to see us. But we were quite okay because we are a huge family, and I think I was lucky to have corona, because only then I realized a lot of ideals of life. I didn't lose anything to the disease, to the pandemic, but I gained something. And what is that I gained? Stand together, stand united, love heals. And thank you. And that's exactly what I did. I took my daughter, my pregnant daughter, who was 4 months pregnant then, out in the garden. We have a huge garden behind. I went out to the garden. I gave her the best food with lots of vitamin C. And we are all here. I'm here. My lungs were completely full. They had fluid in it. And doctor was so scared for me, and he gave me a big packet of pills, and he said, you have to take 5 in the morning, 7 in the afternoon, and another 5 in the evening, and I did nothing of that. I did nothing about it. I just enjoyed it. We faced it together, and if you are strong, the fear caused death. The fear caused death to many people. So if you're strong up here, and if you say, okay, come on, try me, and I'll face you. That's exactly what I did. That's exactly. No medication, no doctors helped. Some of my very best friends who were doctors were admitted to hospitals, and they never came home alive. So if I have my father, who's 84 years, living now, and my daughter, who's having a very happy pregnancy, everything is going as normal, I think we have to have a strong mind, a lot of faith, and take the right steps in life. Let nature heal. That's what I believe. And that's why I'm here today to listen to all of you. Thank you very much.
Just a minute. I believe Awake India movement is a very growing awareness in India. They are already on applications like Telegram. They are already on applications like Twitter. I would want them to start using Clubhouse. In Clubhouse, we can talk to people every day. Every day people join the rooms, and you can discuss and debate and whatever it is as and how long you want. And you can schedule those talks, and people can come up. I have sent an invite to Daryl, and I have sent to whose numbers I have. I sent it to them. Please join and let us start spreading this awareness, because this Clubhouse is catching very rapidly. I don't know how many of you are on Clubhouse. Please start using it. It is very, very useful app, especially political type of things, awakening medicines, alternate medicines, homeopathy, everything is there. You talk about it, the subject is there.
Thank you.
So open the Clubhouse account.
You cannot generalize a body. Everyone is different. Every body is different. So everyone has to take their opinion. Has a right to take their opinion.
Stop 5G. Stop 5G.
I think we are free to choose what we should take and what we should not take. Thank you.
Please look at this and read this. Everybody is happy, but I'm going to get sick.
I'm wearing a mask today only because of a fine. Otherwise, I know that viruses go through masks, and it is bad for our health. come here to say anything?
Yes, I'm not going to take the vaccine till the safety data is out, and that's
Just-
a long time.
You can just say it a little louder. Yeah. A little louder.
I'm not anti-vax. Both my children have been fully vaccinated. But until the safety trials are out, I do not intend taking the vaccine for myself or my family.
Thank you. Want to say anything?
I'm only wearing a mask because I'm forced to.
Thank you.
I already got mine done.
Okay.
Where do I start? If I start speaking, then I have a problem.
Want to speak anything?
I'm going to put it on my card. I think we should all put something on the card.
Vande Mataram.
So yeah, if you want to say anything, a short statement, or you want to say something, please say it on camera. So we are starting from there. Please line up, everyone. Thank you.
Hi, Darren.
The reason I have this on is written here.
has